We tend to notice physical dis-ease, this physical discomfort. When something happens to us physically, immediately, I got to fix that, or I go to the doctor, or I'm going to put a Band-Aid on it, or a heating pad.
Yeah.
So we react.
It's the most tangible because you sometimes you can see it.
Yeah, you're right. It's kind of hard to ignore. But what we don't realize is there's a mental piece. The mental piece may be leading the physical piece or the physical disease. So this is coming from the Rosicrucian work too. But your mind is so powerful. You need to spend as much time developing your mind and your mental disciplines and strength as you do your physical. So,
absolutely.
You go for a walk. We think nothing of going for a walk for an hour, but do you really spend that time with your mind? So that's the first part. I want to touch on mental because it's where the work needs to be done.
Welcome to the Forward Think Tank podcast, a place of hope, inspiration, and education around holistic health and healing. I'm your host, Jamie Mazza, a holistic health coach, mental health advocate, and dancer. Join me as I share out-of-the-box conversations with integrative doctors, healers, and exceptional forward-thinking individuals thriving on the other side of their health challenges, as well as stories from my own personal healing journey. Thank you for tuning in. I'm so happy you're here.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Forward Think Tank. On this week's episode, I sit down with a guest that I've known my entire life. My dad, my best friend, my number one guy. Sorry, Nick. The first man I ever loved and somebody who I respect and just think the world of. My dad is somebody who, through every major decision in my life, I've always consulted him. I have learned so much from him. We have both grown a lot in spiritual ways and ways that we can share with each other. We have deep, meaningful life chats all the time. And certainly with everything that I've experienced over the last year and a half, he has definitely been one of those roots that has kept me grounded and also reminded me of things like tuning into my body, practicing stillness, breathing, teaching me lots of nuggets of wisdom of things that he's learned over the years that have really helped him. And it's been such a needed piece of my recovery that I've really appreciated. When I started this podcast, I named it the Forward Think Tank because, as you may remember, I was a forward before I was Jamie Mazza. My dad, Jim Forward, is somebody who has had a branding and identity company since I was 3 years old. And I have just learned so much from seeing the evolution of his business and all the other ventures that he has developed and just brought to life from his own brain. He's been an inspiration in taking action on your dreams and making things happen. And he's that type of guy where he always has an answer for everything. He's been a great guiding resource for me as a kid, but even more so now as an adult too. I cherish our relationship. And when I decided to name this podcast the Forward Think Tank, I originally had the idea, as I shared many episodes prior, to do this podcast and actually to have it be a place where I brought in inspiring people who had overcome things in their life or were just out of the box thinkers or inspirational in some way. And I thought my dad was going to be my first guest on the podcast. When I shared that I was making a podcast, and obviously the last year and a half, my life took a completely different direction. And so then I decided to focus it more on my healing journey and asked him if he wanted to be on it. Initially, he was a little hesitant, but when I was home a few weeks ago, he was like, you know what? If that offer still stands, I'd love to do it. In this episode, we talk about his reaction as a parent of somebody seeing their child go through a diagnosis like this and how he handled it and how he chose to take a step back and think about what I needed and the type of support that he could offer me. We talk about his reaction to me choosing to go the more integrative route and, also what he learned for himself and how that also benefited his own health by being inspired by my journey. Not only that, but then we also touch on a way of living, I want to say, that really, and a way of being and a school of thought that made a breakthrough in his life, the Rosicrucians. He shares a lot about how he discovered the Rosicrucians and some of their main lessons. It touches on things that a lot of people could really benefit from hearing. And, we go into more detail on what inspires him to stay creative. I could sit here and read a professional bio of my dad, or I could just tell you a bit about him. My dad is one of 5 kids. He was the middle child. He was always super curious and creative. I ask him what it means to be a forward. Of course, we get into that, because I feel like that is something I really embodied and embraced in my adult years. I always refer to him as Curious Jim. He's somebody who never stops learning. He never stops growing, no matter his age or whatever. He's somebody who is young at heart, and it inspires and reminds me to stay young at heart and play and still get outside and still be inspired by the beauty all around us. He has had a branding and identity firm for over 35 years now. He now is working on a really cool project that is going to bring artists and art lovers together. We don't talk about it too much on the podcast. I think I'll have to bring him back for a separate episode once everything is released and out there in the world, but it's a really cool technology that is really going to change the name of the game in the art world, and certainly also help people heal, because as we discuss, having creative outlets like dance or art or music, these are all important tools that we can use to heal our body. We talk about a bunch of different things, and I could have probably talked to him easily for 5 more hours. He is a dad, a husband. I am the oldest of 3 girls. I don't know if I've ever talked about that specifically on the podcast, but he's been a girl dad for 38 years now, and he's a damn good one. Dad, if you're watching this, it was awesome to have this conversation with you. It was special. I look back at these episodes that I've done with everybody, and it's so nice to have these conversations captured in a way that I can go back selfishly and look at them. This was always a vision I had, to have you on here and have you share your wisdom and have everybody see what a cool guy you are and why I love you so much. I'm really grateful for everything that you shared in this episode, for always having my back over these 38 years of life, for helping me answer every question I've ever asked you, or helping me make every major decision that I've ever been challenged to make. I appreciate you being a friend, being my dad, loving me, supporting me, having my back, and taking time to come onto the podcast. So please, everyone, give a warm welcome to my dad, Jim Forward, and please enjoy this very special episode of the Forward Think Tank. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Forward Think Tank. I am here today with a guest I am so happy to introduce. I have my dad, Jim Forward. He is the original Forward. He is really, I guess, what inspired me to call this the Forward Think Tank growing up as Jamie Forward. I feel like I really stepped into what I felt being a forward meant to me. So I'm definitely going to ask him what being a forward means to him. But Dad, you've been one of my built-in best friends my whole life, somebody I have always looked up to, somebody who has inspired me. You continue to grow and evolve as a human. I have done a lot of work and self-development on myself. We've been able to share some of that growth together, and a lot of those conversations that go deep and mean a lot to me. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom. You're also one of the smartest people I know. You have a lot to offer people. I'm excited to have you here and talk about all the things. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm more excited than I realized to be here. I've been watching along through your series and enjoyed it and learned a lot. Wondered whether I might ever be qualified to hop on and chat with you. So here I am.
I don't know if I told you this, but when I first thought about the idea of having a podcast 4 or 5 years ago, I had the name for it. Obviously, didn't have all these health things come up. I thought about having it be a place where I talk to people who have been through evolution in their life or had significant growth, or maybe been through some hardships that they've overcome, or in some way are inspirational. So that was the original idea, and obviously took a different spin when this all happened, but you were definitely on the original list.
Great. That's good. That's good to know. That's interesting how things evolve and how this has really grown. And it's amazed me some of the things I've learned from my daughter, Jamie, as you share what you're learning. It's been awesome. It had some positive effects on me.
Thank you. So for those who are not familiar with you, Jim Forward, tell us about yourself. And I would love to hear from your perspective what it means to be a forward.
I thought that was an interesting question when I saw it. And you gave me hints of what we were going to talk about. The forward part, I'm proud to be a forward and what the forwards before me did. I'm not a big history guy, but my brother did all of the family tree, and forwards have been in the United States since the 1600s. They fought for our country in every single war and engagement through the history of our country. They've been politicians and leaders and lumberjacks and engineers and things like that. Forward, the word itself, the name from the English language, before the woods, which was, I took it to be kind of the edge of town or the outskirts. What I feel from being a forward is independent. We were very independent, and my family, while there was plenty of forwards, it was kind of from my dad down is where the family went. We didn't spend a lot of time outside of our own tight group, and I feel the same way here. I look at the forwards from me moving forward, which is you. It's generations coming. Grandkids and things like that are pretty cool too. Although no forward in name anymore, but they're forwards on the inside.
Yeah. When I think about being a forward and think about inspiration from you, chose to name your business Forward Branding and Identity. So it took to me this shape of creativity and thinking out of the box, and that was always really cool to me.
It worked out really well for me because people would comment on that. Oh, that's a cool name. Worked out pretty good for a business, design business I've worked in for many years, 35 years. So handy name to have. Another thing, you made me think about it. What are forwards? And I think about them as people like Dad and my grandfather. These guys were smart, engineer types, inventors. My grandfather was an inventor. I think about what they did. They made things work better. So they could look at something, an operation in a business, a manufacturing plant, or inside of a copier, and rethink it and make it work better and more efficient. I think that's kind of what we're good at, or what I might have got also, because I was able to apply that kind of tactic in my business.
Well, outside of being a forward, tell us a little bit more about you.
I was born into a family of 5 kids, 2 parents, middle American family. My dad worked, my mom stayed home and watched 5 kids. When I look back, I think I had a fantastic life growing up. It wasn't real sophisticated. We were kind of out in the sticks. We were halfway between the 2 towns where there were cow farms and farms and things like that around us. It's an awesome time growing up. Lots of love around me, my parents. But we didn't have a lot of extra. We had what we needed and got through life. It was great. No complaint. I think having love, being loved or feeling loved is probably the biggest thing, one of the most important things.
Absolutely.
I made it through school pretty easily. I was blessed with being smart enough that I could cut corners and things like that. And still, I think it was a gift from God that I had a brain that worked. Allowed me to deviate from the straight line going through school and think about things my own way, be more independent. My dad, just thinking, it was interesting. He'd give us the word of the day, not every day, but we'd get a word. He'd throw a word out at the dinner table, and we didn't know it. We're supposed to go look it up. That got me into loving words and language, specific words. When you blow out your language a little bit, there's a word for everything, and you don't have to use one word abusively and put it on everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do like that. Appreciate words. And in my business, I went to college for art, realized I had to be a commercial artist if I was going to have a career and make any money. But in that game becomes design. It became package design and packaging systems for companies that have products all around the world. But it also, the fun part, the cool part was the branding part where you're developing the actual name. and symbols that are going to be in colors and things that are going to be tied to a brand. Naming was always the most fun. I mean,
For me too.
Diving into cases of thesauruses and dictionaries and different language books that I would use and explore words. So finding the right one is a valuable process for a company or brand. It was a lot of fun. I love it. I got married young, and I started my family young, which means I'm still fairly young, and I've got some gas left in the
Cool
tank.
hip dad.
Yeah, I'm the cool hip dad. I'll let you say that.
I will say, in contrast to mom, also in contrast to a lot of other people in my life, any major decision, where I'm going to go to school, moving out here, what I'm going to do for a living, even something, I don't know, like how to fix my computer. I've always consulted you because I think you're pretty smart. And whether or not you realized it, you always had an answer for everything. Even if you didn't know, you figured it out. I think you also have a unique way, especially over the last decade, of showing up for me, offering insights and tools and different ways of thinking about the situation, which I feel I really need because it grounds me when I can get really hyper and in my head, and it brings me back to, I can think about this differently. I can think about how I feel and pay attention to my body. And that's a lot of the work that I've been fortunate enough to do internally over the last decade. I feel like you have that way of showing up for me and like supporting me in a way that I really need and appreciate. Obviously, this is a heavy question and we don't need to spend too much time on it, but what was your reaction to maybe not hearing about my diagnosis, because obviously it was horrible, but maybe more importantly, what was your reaction to how I was choosing to handle it in going more of the integrative route?
We got to take that in phases because they were different. The first reaction to hearing was shock. You never want to hear something like that about anybody you love. Okay, so now it's my daughter, my first daughter.
Your favorite daughter.
Yes, my favorite first daughter. That's a tough one. I got enough love for everybody. There's no lack, just so we know.
Yeah.
Everybody gets all full doses. It was hard. So you've got this shocking event in your life. And granted, it's not happening to me, but it is, my family.
Yep.
And my wife, who is the tough mother hen, she's very defensive and protective of her own fiercely. That fierceness sometimes comes off in a way that it's hard to deal with. Fierce love and protection of her kids. And on the other side, as much as I didn't want to hear it, realized pretty quickly that I had to counterbalance, I guess, my wife's energy about it. And so we've definitely been types of people. People will look at us and wonder how we made it so long, 45 years. But I guess it's the difference that, keeps us stuck together and
yin and yang.
Each other, even though we don't always admit it. So we were there faced with this huge issue with our child. And so there's fear. I was afraid. I was nervous. I was upset. I'm hard of hearing. So another thing to tell your audience is that I wear hearing aids on both sides. I have since I was 18. Read lips. Communications is difficult for me. I really have to focus on listening. I'm a good listener because I have to be. But in this, what was happening there is there's information coming across. Now you finding out what happened. And there's some information coming across, but most of the time it's coming through my wife, Renee. And so I'm getting her version of everything. We're, I believe, overwhelmed by everything at that time and not really ready to just talk over and over and over again about what was going on. And I got that. So it was fear and it was lack of understanding or knowledge and just kind of taking each next step, kind of carefully. And what can I do to help? How can I help this? How can I help Jamie?
Yeah. I think just to echo that frustration Two, the added piece that it was rare and there wasn't a clear way of going about it made me frustrated when people would ask because, well, we don't really know a lot of things. We don't know where it came from, how to treat it. We don't know, the right way forward. And that felt very unsettling. And then you have mom's nervous, frenetic, loving, but frenetic energy.
If you are listening to this episode and thinking, I have a serious healthcare diagnosis, I've been dealt the cancer card, I want to have help and support around ways that I can heal myself naturally using naturopathic healing, and I need somebody who gets it, please take advantage of this opportunity to work with my naturopath, Dr. Lori Bouchard. Dr. Lori was nice enough to offer a free 30-minute strategy call to dive deep into your personal needs, understand a little bit more about your unique diagnosis, and see how she could help. So if you have been listening to my episodes, maybe you sat down and listened to my interview with Dr. Lori recently, we talk about cancer as a metabolic disease. And so that really, when you look at it from that lens, you need to work on your metabolic health, whether that is focusing on your nutrition, focusing on certain things in fitness, maybe fine-tuning your supplements, working on, the mental health healing process. This is all encompassing and something you'll learn in the Metabolic Cancer Reset program. So this program is designed by Dr. Lori. It is an incredible program where not only do you get one-on-one time with her, you dive deep into your lab work that you look at in a very specific naturopathic lens on a monthly basis, but you also get access to her weekly group calls. So it is a great way to have resources, connect with other people who are going through something similar and who can only understand what you're going through and, just share their own personal experience. But you also get a program with Dr. Lori. So in her Metabolic Cancer Reset program, she provides multiple videos talking about getting into ketosis, talking about nutrition, talking about fasting, talking about, different ways to even work with the conventional side of treatment. So if this is something you're interested in, or maybe you're listening thinking, I really want to send this information to a friend, to a coworker, a family member, a significant other, somebody else who may be dealing with a significant healthcare diagnosis of their own, and they're looking to get support on their healing journey, Dr. Lori is providing a free 30-minute strategy call. So take a look at the description of this episode. I will link it below. Free 30-minute strategy call with Dr. Lori. I promise it will change the game in terms of your healing process. So I hope you enjoy, and thank you, Dr. Lori, for that gracious offer.
And she is the one that I would often end up talking to and expect her to deliver the message the way that I shared it, but wasn't always the case. So, yeah.
Well, actually, your podcast became very helpful to me. In the beginning, it was just a lot of unknown, a lot of fear, but then you started to change in reaction to what was going on in your life, and I noticed all of it. And the podcast itself was helpful for me because it had captions, and you're talking in detail about it. I do want to say, though, after the original fear, the podcast, when you started talking about how you were putting the pieces together, looking back at your life as you were younger and the things that were happening, and we as a family are obviously trying to deal with these things. But I feel like I let you down a little bit there. I was very sad after hearing that. That I didn't know, I was busy working, just trying to make things happen. But you were going through things that were deeper than I realized, or maybe I didn't acknowledge them, how deep they were. So anyways, I learned that after I was not devastated, but just sad, I guess. It's like, geez, how much did I contribute to what happened here?
I've never heard you say that. Everybody asks, what do you think causes this? Where did it come from? And I think the things that I ended up learning from these integrative doctors, where they talk about the terrain of your body, these things that I kind of pieced together and maybe had an influence could happen to somebody else and maybe not have the same result. I was just, well, if I had to think about what maybe made the terrain a little bit more receptive to something like that growing. That was me trying to like reason and put it all together. It wasn't necessarily finger point, blame anything or anyone or even myself. It was more reflective. I don't think I knew that all that was having such a profound impact on my body. I learned it after I started to understand how the body listens and how the body tries to heal and works through whatever is bubbling up inside. So it was a learning for me to share that.
You're the healthiest person I knew. I mean, you were the one who ate only good stuff. You really did the work to figure that out, where the good stuff comes from and how you put it together into a meal and all that. And you also were so physically active, exercising and teaching Zumba and all those things. It's like, well, how could this happen to her? Look at my life in comparison and you go, well, it should all happen to me probably. But there it is. I think my reaction when I started hearing these things and how's Jamie doing, it was all about mental. It was about where's her head at. I want to connect with her and try to be there and support the mental side because I have strong belief that the mental part comes first.
Yeah, well, thank you, because you definitely did. Some of the things that you shared, just like the breathing technique, which we'll get into a little bit. I feel like the Rosicrucians deserves its own introduction, but there were little things that you would share with me, like just laying on the ground or on the floor, the 3 fingers, Rosicrucian breathing technique, slowing down, were all things that you reminded me that I could do to help my nervous system. So thank you.
There's a lot there. We can't really unpack all of it on this call, but I will share some things. You touched on Rosicrucians, which we will get to. But what happened is I'm just a curious person, curious forward. I'm always into learning more. And I somehow crossed paths. I crossed a local person who told the story about how he cured himself of cancer with tuning fork. And, there's a lot to that, but when I heard that and I had the opportunity, I bought a set. I thought, well, maybe it'd be good to have those things around if you can cure cancer with them. But the idea of vibrational medicine and vibrational hearing is something that I got into a long time ago and just started reading about it. I was curious. That's really cool. And explored things like Reiki and other, I guess you'd say,
energy
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I got very curious, so I just kept going. I didn't stop there. I want to know more. But now, if you take in these systems of healing, some of them will get into like your chakras, the 7 chakras in your body. Well, as you start to see, when you're searching and investigating, you start to see these patterns. So you got the same pattern in the colors of light. You've got 7 colors of light. You've got 7 notes in a scale. So you start to see these things and you go, wait a minute, there's something going on here.
Synergy.
So I wanted to share those, and we started playing with the tuning forks. There's multiple things going on there. One, we were together. We were sharing energy between ourselves and love. We were using physical techniques, which were vibration. You think about balance, and when things are out of balance or things are in balance, I think of melodic, things that work together well, that complement each other.
Yeah. I've seen and I've had friends send to me too that more so think like us, videos of cells inside your body when they are introduced to a certain frequency of sound that is considered healing and you can see the cell change. There's a lot of scientific evidence out there about sound being healing. And I think for you and I, we've both been really drawn to music in our lives. I remember growing up, you would like jam out in your workroom in the house, and I would probably be hanging out playing at your feet, but I would listen to all that music, and a lot of that music I still appreciate today. Then I got into dance and started teaching my own classes, and so I was always listening to music all the time. And even now, I think my music choice over the last year and a half has really mellowed out in terms of what I'm choosing to listen to. I think that's received differently on my body. So sound is a big thing. But when I was home going to Buffalo to see Dr. Kaplan, I'm all about developing rituals, whether that's like a ritual for when I wake up or a way to wind down at night. And I try to limit my screen time. So you had
I
brought the
like that
tuning
about
forks
you.
in.
I saw all that. I saw you had a process. You were developing a way of caring for yourself and moving through your own healing. So it was very interesting. And I have to commend your own self-discipline, just everything that you had to have been going through and be able to manage it all together, a routine and continue with the chin up and all that. So I wanted to support that any way I could.
Yeah. So we had our
Music.
little woo woo. Like mom was like, "What are you guys doing in there?" Thought we were doing witchcraft or something.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the music part, and you mentioned that your preference has been changing a little bit. I listen to music. I can tell very quickly whether it's a song that works for me or not. So there's a part of that is, if those vibrations aren't feeling good for you, stop listening to them. That is what I'd say. If you don't end up feeling good, I mean, actually good from it, then change the channel.
Yeah, I just want to finish the thought. So you came in with the tuning forks, just tried it, experimented one night, and I was laying down, like getting ready to go to bed. And so you did the tuning fork, all the different notes along each chakra that it corresponded to. I remember the first night we did it, and then we paired it with the Rosicrucian breathing technique. First night, I think I fell asleep before you even finished. I slept so good. I'm somebody, I'll try it once. If it works, I'll try it again. If it works the second time, then okay, something's there. So then that just became our nighttime routine, and I really appreciated it. I looked forward to it. At the end of the night, I'd be like, okay, I'd like text you if you were downstairs working. You ready? I'm ready for my vibes.
Well, it also allowed me to participate into something that you were holding very tightly. Your healing was going to be under your control, and you were defining, as you learned more things in your exploration and your discussions with doctors, you were defining how you were going to do this, and wanted to respect that. I appreciated that I could try to help.
In creating that environment, especially being at your house for those 6 weeks, I simplified everything so much to boiling down to one question. Does it make you feel good, or does it make you feel not good? If it was yes, then we do it. If it was no, then we don't.
Great way to evaluate.
Protection.
For sure. His feeling is telling you, we don't pay attention enough. Those little changes, the state changes when somebody bumps you into a new feeling, and all of a sudden you're a different person at that point. If you can pay attention, you can try to manage them. So
yeah, totally. All right, let's get into the Rosicrucians, because I do want to spend time talking about this. And if you think it's worthwhile to share maybe what was happening before you found it, or how you discovered the Rosicrucians, and what is in a way that people can grasp.
Okay.
Let's start there.
Well, I'm a searcher. I'm what people would term a searcher, or I had been most of my life. I tried to get through the early part quickly, but somebody gave me a book when I was about 18. That book, it was called Seth Speaks.
Oh, yeah. Ashley will love this. She loves that book. I haven't read it.
Well, that
I have it.
That really shook the foundations of, what I believed at that time in my life. I was raised Catholic and Christian, really in a Christian family, and we cared about people, and we went to church on Sundays, and my dad sang in the choir. I was impressed by that when I was very young. I pretended I was a priest. So I had like the blocks, I had my chalice and I put a robe on. My mom reminded me of that. So I get that book. I was living this faith. I go to church and I believe in God. But I read that book and it just kind of shook. It asked these questions, which were piercing enough, I'd say, that I started to question what I believed. I questioned everything. I mean, the whole foundation of my faith was rocked. And that started 20 years of searching for more answers, at least 20 years. So reading everything, joining groups, all these alternative kind of things.
When you say searching for more answers, about what specifically?
Why am I here? What is it all about? I mean, there's some big questions. You're like, I wasn't happy with just kind of going day to day. I like understanding more. But that's the deep question. I mean, I think everybody asks it in some way. What am I doing here?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to be doing? So I kicked around. I read all these things. Finally, a good friend, one of my buddies, gave me a book for my birthday. In the book, it was Duke. And the book was written by Graham Hancock, who's now a famous guy. He's got TV shows and all this stuff going on. He's an explorer of ancient civilization. And this book at the time was named Talisman. So it has a new book name now. He changed the name for some reason. The book talked about man's quest for freedom. It was a kind of a history book, but from the Egyptians all the way through Middle Ages Europe, into the United States, the forming of the U.S. And it was about the path of Christianity, really, and the offshoots and evolution of it. I talked about it one time before the French Revolution, okay, which was just before the American Revolution. And Americans were kind of in cahoots over there, and we were going back and forth and working with each other. But I read about these posters all of a sudden started appearing in the streets in Paris. And the posters were an invitation to a mystic school or a mystic college. They thought it was the Rosicrucians that were put these posters up. So as I read this, I thought, that's kind of cool, a mystic school. I wonder if they're still around. And I went to Google. This was 20 years ago, so the internet wasn't quite what it was now.
Yeah.
I searched Rosicrucian, hit return, and I ended up connecting with a group. I found the Rosicrucians, and there's more than one. I ended up resonating a group based in Spain. It was a Rose Cross Order based in Las Palmas and the Canary Islands. I visited them, but I read their website, and the things they said were interesting to me and connective, and it's like, wow, maybe this is finally the thing that I've been looking for.
When you found their website, was there anything specific you can recall that stood out to you? Anything about their messaging or their mission? Or
everything about their messaging. It was everything. And there was a lot of it. I was able to read a bunch of things that the more I read, the more like, wow, this is definitely what I've been looking for. It was organized. It was an organized school. It's also a fraternal order of service. So the Rosicrucian, the Rose Cross Order is a fraternal order of service. The idea is to help. It has a symbol. I say Rose Cross Order. So the symbol of the Rosicrucian symbol is a rose centered at the cross. The crossbars of a cross.
I can pop an image in here so people can see.
Okay. And that would be an even cross, not a crucifix. Both bars are even. The symbol in the simplest way is a symbol of living life to the fullest, living your best life. And that's different for everybody. It worked for me. I loved it. I fell in love with it. I found something that I connected to. It had a lot of depth. There's a lot of information. It's a school. And it taught all the things that they never taught you in public schools. This was different. You may have been warned, don't go learning that stuff. Like some of that stuff you're not supposed to be learning. It's not for you or it's not good.
Yeah. I mean, to me, with what you've shared and little things that I've learned along the way, it's almost like I don't know if I'm speaking to it right, a philosophy and a way of approaching and thinking about life and interacting with the world and interacting with yourself.
Yes and no. It's not really trying to influence you into his way of thinking. Okay. It starts out with the basis is that everybody has a right to believe in the God of their heart. That's the basis. The basis of freedom is that you have a right and I have a right to believe in God the way I feel it and the way I find it and the way I discover it. Everybody has that right. Everybody in the world. Think of it as a wisdom school. Information that's been passed along for 1,000 years. There's things that are not scholastic education. You know what I mean? There's ways to look at life. There's tools. There's different frameworks and philosophy. So you learn about different philosophers. Okay, so you're reading what these people throughout history were sharing and trying to help and their take on it. So you're not getting a philosophy, but you're encouraged to develop your own way of looking at the world. I'm forward. I'm fiercely independent. I don't believe anything anybody tells me until I work my way through it and accept it because I understand it. Yeah,
I mean, I think I could take that same mindset and apply it to how I approached this whole journey that I've been on too.
I saw you be reborn. We'll say that now. So using some of the concepts, you learn about in spiritual things. Everybody goes through a rebirth or has the potential for that if they're growing. What happens is you're letting go of some of the old things you knew and you're replacing them with more refined thinking.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
with you, um,
My therapist called it my Phoenix rising.
but what would happen before the phoenix rose? If the phoenix was
I don't
bumping
know.
into the walls that it built itself, trying to escape from the first phase. It's a place where we get loaded with stuff.
Yeah.
As we're growing up and you're going to school and your parents and everybody else is just kind of force feeding all of this information into you before you ever know that, wait a minute, I gotta stop some of that. I don't believe in that. You're not taught that part. It helps to learn that part, to say, well, I can control what I think about or what I'm going to believe. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be everything that everybody tells me.
Yeah. Going back to the Rosicrucians, do you feel like there's core principles that the Rosicrucian way taught you, maybe in terms of healing, mental health, life's challenges, growth? I wasn't really sure how to ask that question, but I feel like there's a lot of wisdom that they have and could be helpful for people to hear. I don't know what came up for you when you were thinking about that question. Probably a lot.
That led to a lot of thought. How do you figure out the three things you're going to share with somebody from 20 years of study? So I'm not a follower. I stayed involved because it was giving me so much to work with, so much information. Everybody has heard the framing of body, mind, spirit, right? Or at least body and mind. The third one would be spirit, which we all have soul, spirit, whether we acknowledge it. But the thing to think about is these things are connected. All right. There's no walls between them. We think of them as my body and then my mind and then my spirit, if I ever got there.
Yeah, they're all
These are
separate.
plateaus. They're not. Okay. It's a continuous gradation or whatever. I would say one of the things I learned is that dis-ease can happen at any and all of those levels. We tend to notice physical dis-ease, this physical discomfort. When something happens to us physically, immediately, I got to fix that, or go to the doctor, or I'm going to do something, and put a Band-Aid on it, or put a heating pad on it.
Yeah.
So we react.
It's the most tangible because you sometimes can see it.
Yeah, you're right. It's kind of hard to ignore. But what we don't know or don't realize is there's a mental piece. The mind, the mental piece may be leading the physical piece or the physical disease. This is coming from the Rosicrucian work too, but your mind is so powerful. You need to spend as much time, or you could spend as much time developing your mind and your mental disciplines and strength as you do. You go for a walk. We think nothing of going for a walk for an hour, or whatever, or go exercise. But do you really spend that time with your?
Are you still walking around in those leggings full of microplastics? I know. Seems like nothing is safe anymore, right? It's ridiculous. I recently started changing over my clothing to more sustainably sourced, no harm to me brands, and I have been obsessed lately with Woolly. It's made of 100% merino wool. Honestly, you have to try. Merino wool, it's naturally finer than your average wool, so don't think about like your grandma's wool, right? It's made of smaller, breathable fibers that actually regulate your body temperature. So I wore their leggings in the dead of winter when I was trying to get out every single day, even if it was 15 degrees post-op. I had not an ounce of body fat on me, so I was always freezing, and I was shocked at how it kept me warm and insulated on my walks. So obsessed. But it also wicks away moisture from the skin and is quick to dry. So really perfect for, now that it's getting nice out, we're going outside, we might be sweating a little bit. It's all good. It will regulate your body temperature. It's truly amazing. So I've been obsessed with their leggings. I also have short and long sleeve tops from them, which again are just so fine and soft to the touch. I was honestly shocked, and they're comfortable. They're cute. I mean, they have everything from like underwear to athletic wear. I can't wait to try more, but I had to tell you about this because I know honestly for a lot of people who are hyper conscious, I should say, about wellness are looking at the trending topic of microplastics in our Lululemon leggings. So if you're looking for high quality athleisure gear that won't add to your plastic burden, I highly recommend you try Woolly. They have everything, like I said, from athleisure to underwear, and you can get 15% off your first order using code JAMIEM15. That's JAMIEM, as in Mazda, 15 at checkout. So head on over to Woolly, WOOLLY.clothing, and check them out. Enjoy.
Right. So that's the first part. I want to touch on mental because I think it's where the work needs to be done. Now, the Rosicrucians were healers throughout history, so they've been around for a long time, from the 1400s. Okay, so
wow.
hundreds of years that this has been going on. At that time, they were physical healers. They would go from city to city or village to village and help the people that were sick, and it was more of a physical aspect. Now, hundreds of years later, the medical industry, modern medicine is taking care of a lot of the physical thing. Okay?
Yeah.
But what it's not doing as good of a job on is the mental things. Okay?
Not at all.
We all feel a little bit crazy these days, and we are. And the Rosicrucians are helping with that. The Rosicrucian now, the healer, is just trying to help people with the mental part.
Mm-hmm.
Share what I can, share what you can. I'm not a healer, okay? I'm not claiming to be a healer, but I've learned things and techniques that can help you heal yourself or move yourself to a better state. We're getting into the three things, but the first, most important thing is, and I know you can attest to this, if you don't have good control over your thinking and your mind, you have to develop a little discipline. The first thing is to stop, okay? The first thing is to be able to kind of stop yourself on a dime. Quickly stop yourself when you notice where your thinking is going. If it's going to a place you don't want it to be, okay, stop. Think about something else. But that's probably the hardest thing ever to do, is that microsecond before you take off into your rant. For me, it would be kind of a grumpy rant, or something. If you can stop.
Our thoughts can feel so automatic that I feel like when I was in a really bad place and constantly thinking about negative things, I didn't even realize that I had the ability to stop it because it just kept flowing.
Absolutely. I agree completely, because we're not told that, hey, that thing that's running like crazy all the time in my head, we can stop that. And that's the very first step, because when that thing is running, if you can pay attention to what you're thinking, you're making a huge step in your mental powers. So if you can go, wait a minute, I'm thinking about this, pull back and observe it a little bit, then you can change it. Go, I don't want to think about that.
Yep.
And replant. So stop. It takes practice, and it's going to take you a long time before you get good at it. Because I've been practicing for years, and I still have a long way to go.
Me too.
But to stop myself before I snap at somebody or before I do something. So that's number one, is mind. And mind influences physical. And your mental state can pour over the top of your physical state and influence it. It's also your connection to your spirit. And in the long run, you want to make those connections, because your spirit is the rest of you. Your spirit is really the 99% of you. We're just a little part. But your spirit will help you. Think about those conversations you have in your head. You're talking to yourself. Well, who are you talking to? Who's that other voice? Yeah, I realized early on that other voice, like one voice was real positive, and the other one kept saying, no, that's not going to work. No. When you start to notice it, wait a minute, this voice is working pretty good. This one's an asshole, or this one, excuse me, is just always saying no.
Yeah.
If you grab onto that idea, you'll be playing with it for the rest of your life. So mental practice. Acknowledge your mind and try to help yourself steer your thinking. If you're stuck on something horrible, look outside, look at a flower, or do something. Get yourself out of the brick and into nature, and just let those beautiful things get about. The second thing I'm going to say is balance. Balance goes over everything, physical and mental. But Rosicrucians promote the concept of moderation.
Okay.
It's awesome and very embraceable. If you look at everything that goes on right now, it's so polarized.
Yes.
So there's another cool thing about the Rosicrucians is that you learn cosmic law, or they call it cosmic law. These kind of basic truths but polarization is one of them. Okay. And polarization is from, one side or the other. You think about black, white, warm, cold, male, female, and those things just continue. Everything in life is this comparison and polarization.
Mm-hmm.
What we listen to and the things that, I think about social media or the news, they're all pushing
extremely,
extreme polarization, which is the most untrue thing there is, because we're all different. Truth, universal truth, is that we are all unique, and we try to grab everybody around us and say, hey, jump into this side with me, and we're all on this side and those guys are on that side. Okay. And you try to reduce your variability, but there's a million increments on one side and a million increments on the other side, and there's space for everybody in the middle.
So moderation is more like in the middle, or
it's in the middle without worrying about being in the middle. Don't obsess over any of it. And so you don't want to be extreme. Think about, well, what's not moderation? That would be excessiveness.
When I was on the keto diet, it was a very extreme diet. So I'd say moderation would be having a little piece of bread or having a little piece of cake, and it's okay. That's like a simple way to think about it.
Help you survive. You have to moderate that a little bit.
Yeah.
Diets is probably a good way to look at it. They get extreme. You should eat watermelon only for 4 weeks or whatever it might be.
Carnivore diet and,
all of those things. You taught me that. And a mixture of things. You want the range of things in the meal. But it's really a good example of not moderation.
Restriction. Yeah.
So balance, I'm going to go back to balance. Moderation is, again, it's being nice to yourself. Okay. Nobody needs to be extreme, perfect. You only eat watermelon every day or whatever it is. Besides, it's unfair to yourself. Open those things up. Be a little more moderate. If you fail, if you drop the ball, forgive yourself and keep going. Forgive yourself every single time. It doesn't matter what you did. It's not so important that you get to hold it against yourself. So it's so much easier to keep moving on if you forgive yourself.
Yeah. I think that's important for people to hear, because I know when I was really stressed out and put a lot of pressure on myself and had a lot on my plate and felt like I was in decision fatigue, certain things felt so critical or so permanent that if I screwed something up, it was a bigger deal than it really needed to be. And I think forgiveness with everything in life, forgiving someone else, forgiving yourself for sure, like it's such a release of that tension and release of emotional turmoil. I've learned a lot about releasing a lot of things, releasing toxins from my body, releasing emotion that I've held on to, releasing traumatic thoughts, whatever they are. That to me represents just almost an immediate release so that you don't hold on to it. And I think that's a really important part of what you just shared.
So that balance, it's being fair to yourself. You're doing everything to yourself. I mean, it's hard to say that and have it understood well, but everything happens in your mind. Your whole life is taking place in your mind, in a sense. And so you're the one that has to be kind to yourself. You're the one that has to support yourself and forgive yourself and lighten up. Lighten up, try to do good, try to get along and learn and grow, but then lighten up. Don't be so hard on yourself. We're so hard on ourselves. And so that was moderation or balance. Now that ties in closely to 3. All of these things tie together. None of them are really discrete. In balance, we touched on polarization, the extreme of either pole, of either side. So balance is going to be somewhere in the middle. It's going to be somewhere along that line. Trying to be extreme is the wrong strategy, the wrong tactic. The last thing is going to be water. You asked about the breathing exercises that we did in your healing. I can't convey enough about them, to share them here. If someone in your
That's
audience
fine.
wanted to spend some time and learn more about that, well, I'd suggest join the Rosicrucians, but I would try to help them, but that's a one-on-one thing. In your case, I was actually doing the exercises with you. I was the one executing that. I shared things with you because I do believe that they will also be helpful in the same way. I want to give you something though. I'm going to give you an exercise. It's not necessarily the same thing, but this is an awesome one. So when you're feeling agita, you know the word agita, you're feeling disheveled or whatever it is. Here's uptight for me. If I'm extra uptight, there is a sound exercise. 3 sounds. And the first one is, so it's A-H-H-A. Now, when you do that, notice where you feel it. You're going to feel that in your chest. You can feel the vibration.
Feel it right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second one is ooh or oh. So it's a ooh.
Ooh.
That's in here. Ooh. Oh. You can feel the vibration. It's fake because you're vibrating that part of your body.
Yeah. Maybe like the top of my ears.
If you're feeling disheveled, out of sorts, you would just take a deep breath, and you would go through those 3 notes. I'm using them in half octave because I do it that way. It doesn't matter what note you're on, you're still going to feel it in that place. So that's a little exercise for just calming yourself down. If you feel out of whack, do that 3 times. Take a deep breath and fill your belly. And then maybe a 3 or 4 count, 3 or 4 count, 3 or 4 count. Do that 3 times.
Now, can I ask you a question? If somebody were to, let's say, be at work and feel this way, if they said the sound in their head, does it have the same effect as actually making the sound?
I'll say no. It's not the exact same effect. I'll say yes and no. Okay. So yes, if you do it mentally, you're still going through that. You're doing this thing where you're taking a pause and you're stopping. You shut off everything else now, and your mind is doing ooh ee. Guess what? You let that other stuff go.
Mm-hmm.
But the physical vibration part, I'm feeling it physically. And so just doing that little exercise, by the end, I feel pretty good. And I will also say, and I told you, get your flute out, grab my guitar and just play a couple of chords, and just the vibrations, this nice vibration, kind of settle you right down.
It's usually when I'll go dance and like get in my physical body too.
Right, exactly. Everything vibrates. This is a cosmic rule or law. Everything vibrates. And so you're influenced by the vibrations around you. That's why I don't really listen to certain contemporary music, which is just too heavy thudding for me. It just doesn't work right.
Yeah.
Now, the third thing, number 1 is knowledge of mind, and your thinking, and you live in your mind. So make it a beautiful place. Number 2, balance. Moderation. So as soon as we try to do something, I'm going to change myself, we turn into extremists. I'm going to have to do this every single morning. You're not going to do it every day. You're not going to be as consistent as you want. So forgive yourself now. Be moderate. Know your ups and downs, and have fun. All right. The third thing, water. And the last thing I could share from the Rosicrucians is one of the first things they suggested, and that is to bless, I say bless, but to magnetize your water. You got to acknowledge that you and me and everybody are 75% water.
Yes.
75% water. I just keep saying that to yourself because you still don't believe it. Water. Okay? 75% of what you're seeing is water. The rest of the stuff is really magical, but water also is magical. Water, I've read scientific books, big, huge, science books on water. Water is the coolest thing. What I learned from those science books is that water can do work. Now, we talked about polarization. We've talked about male and female, but we didn't really talk about plus and minus, positive and negative, which are the 2 charges. It's either positive, negative, or neutral. So water can do work through its change of states. It's either biased positive charge or biased a negative charge. As an example, think about a big tree, a really tall tree. That water is not making it up to the top of that tree. We were taught in school that, well, it's kind of like squeezing it, like paracelsus, and it's going to make the force of water up the tree. The physics and mechanical, properties of that could never do it. There's not enough pressure to do that. But what does move it up and down is the charge. It's doing work, so it's moving through a charge and following the charge up and down the tree. Talking about water and the charge, your body, everybody has a net charge, let's say. Your whole body gets out at this energy. Water, if you think about water being 75% of you, wouldn't water be 75% of your tumor?
Yeah.
Okay. And let's think about that a little bit. Water is 5% of pretty much everything in you. Water can carry a positive or negative charge in your body.
Mm-hmm.
What you want to do is balance. Okay? You want to get to balance. The Rosicrucians taught that if you were to take a glass of water, run some clean water.
I do that? I've got mine.
And weave your fingers through it. Okay. Hold your hand at your solar plexus, just below your sternum. Just hold it there. Now you're going to take a deep breath. And you're going to do this 7 times, but you hold the breath. And while you hold the breath, just think about the water, concentrate on it. And also think about your kidneys, which is the one organ inside of you, which water is tightly related to. Your kidneys are your core energy. Think about the water balancing your kidneys and strengthening your kidneys. You can just do that. Okay. Do that 7 times. So you take a deep breath, you hold in the glass, and just focus on the water doing the work it needs to do in your healing. Now, depending on who's listening to this thing, some people are going to go, that guy is crazy. But I'm just going to say, you don't really know enough to make that determination. I spent 20 years thinking about it. And I'm saying, balance your water. Now, if you were to do a lot of research or any research on water, you're going to find out it is a miracle. Everything that it does and the simplicity that it is, but put it to work for you. Ask the water to balance. Just help balance my body. Help balance the water in me. That's what you're thinking. Because you just eases from being out of balance. And if you're 75% water and water can balance itself, okay. Yeah. With the water. So that was my...
I think you boiled it down really great to three. I'll make sure I include some information, but if people want to learn about the Rosicrucians, they could just go onto their website.
Yeah, there's more than... If you look up the Rose Cross Order, I believe you'll find the one in Spain. Another thing about the Rosicrucians is they prefer not to talk about other things, groups, people, anything in a negative way. If you can't say it without going down on it, then don't bother. Don't say anything. I just know that I'm in this one, and I know that they're different. One key thing that I learned why they're different is the true Rosicrucian order shuts down every 120 years or so, or another 100 years or so. These cycles of when the order is open, it is open now and active now, and it started, I believe, in the 80s, 1980. Okay. But it was closed. There was nothing before that started up again for 100 years. And the reason why they do that is any organization that exists forever becomes corrupted. Mm-hmm. Power corrupts, and that's the reason why it gets shut down. And
they closed down for 100 years?
Yeah. So on this multiple times, exception I'm aware of is the 1400s. 600 years ago means be on and off, on 100, off 100. So 3 times, maybe 3 cycles.
Okay. Interesting.
It's very interesting. You wonder how they do that, how they pull that off. Well,
right. That's a long time. It's not just like, 5 years. It's 100 years.
No one can corrupt that. No one can make it their own and can take over control and ownership. I thought that was a really cool concept. Everything should shut down for 100 years.
But how do you know that it will continue? Because 100 years could be...
Well, information is passed along. I mean, it has... The group itself will continue the movement of that information. So this information is old. It's been around longer than 600 years.
Yeah. All right. If you can sum it up with a couple thoughts, how has discovering the Rosicrucians changed your life?
Well, discovering the Rosicrucians, you might say it was a happy accident.
Mm-hmm.
But I know now that it wasn't. So I just said, how did I find them? Well, they found me. It resonated with me instantly. I knew. I liked that this was solid. It's been around for a long time. And all the people that I met were very solid. And they're trying to help. So I bumped into the Rosicrucians. I dove in. At the time, I was going through the middle-aged crazy kind of period. I knew I wanted to understand more about myself, my spirit and soul and things like that. So I got into this exploring mode. I drove my wife crazy. And we drove each other crazy at that point. But that's where it began. So it began in crisis. Just like, your change began in crisis. It's these problems and these crises that we run into, which are going to bring about change. If you know that those things are triggers, it helps you work with it.
Yeah. I think maybe that answers one of the questions that I came up with after the fact that, what was an obstacle in your life that caused significant growth?
It is a good point. Every obstacle, I think, can contribute to growth.
But how you chose to move through it, I think is the important piece to acknowledge.
I'm going to mention another obstacle just because I think it frames it better. I've worked for myself for 35 years. I grew a big company at one point with a lot of people in it, which was hugely stressful. But then when our little wagon rolling down the hill smashed into the curb, a major client went bankrupt. Major client that really was the lifeblood of our organization for a long time. So things got rough then. And I look back and I think about it, it became more and more just my problem. Whereas it wasn't everybody else's problem. This was my problem. And the problem was compounded in many ways, owning a building and having offices and having all these payroll. And so, I wasn't going to give up and I wasn't going to go bankrupt. It's just not who I am. If I have a debt, I'm going to pay it. I get inspiration from Mark Twain, so you know, because he had some rough times, but he kept working, paid up his bills, satisfied himself. But that happened. That got crazy. It took a long time. It took 10 years to unwind from a company that took 25 years to build. So, but you get stronger. You going through what you went through, you're immensely stronger than you were a couple of years ago, even a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
You're mentally so much stronger, determined. You were kind of wimpy. I'll say, I'm saying that laughing, but or I could see much more of your true potential. I think as a parent,
I was just gonna say I don't think I was living to my potential.
So I could see it ahead of you. I could see the light inside of you, and when you came to the other side, as you started doing your podcast and you started sharing, moving from fear into sharing, your light came out. I saw the transformation of my daughter. I witnessed it. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It makes me so happy. It's leading to your continued growth and health. It's just the most awesome thing. Any parent would love to be able to see that, participate in it, support it. So you're becoming all you can be. I keep getting this statement that it's kind of like it was an army tagline.
Well, thanks. Yes, I agree. I wouldn't maybe use the word wimpy, but I was stuck on the hamster wheel. I didn't see an exit sign. I knew that I wanted to do more, but there was like this internal disbelief in my potential or just obstacles I would hit that just felt like a never ending guardrail. I don't know. But anyways, then this happened and it like blew up my life. And I just had this, I guess, talking about your spirit. My spirit finally was like very clear to me, like, you're going to be okay. Keep going. It's going to suck. And then you're going to share this with people. And I think if I didn't share it and I internalized it so much, it could debilitate me. But I think that finding people like Dr. Lori and having the ability to sit on her calls with people who are going through something similar and are choosing the approach that I'm choosing, which is very empowering. I'm going to put myself in the driver's seat instead of being at liberty of conventional medicine, which doesn't at all talk about the mental piece. I said, okay, well, one, I'm sick of repeating the same story and everyone keeps asking because people care. And for me, It was one of those things I'll never forget. And maybe I shared this with you. My therapist, who I love, and had said to me, in this ancient culture, I can't remember which one it was, when you have trauma in your life, the rule is that you can only share it 3 times. And after that, you don't talk about it anymore because you rid it from yourself. And I thought it was very interesting to hear because I found myself feeling mentally exhausted when I would share over and over because I didn't want to live in that forever. So then I started this podcast as a way to talk about what I was going through, but also help share those learnings with other people because in order to become the master, right, you have to teach. So the same could be said.
What you just said.
Yeah.
Because what you'll notice as you kind of move into that space, you start to notice how people hold on to their ailment and, they identify it becomes their lead communication. How are you? Well, I'm, and they move right into their self-diagnosis or whatever, but stuckness in there. If you keep repeating the same story, why not say, I'm changing or,
Yes. I'm healing.
Yeah, I am health.
Right.
I am healthy.
Right. Yes.
Put it in now. So it was interesting you say that because I noticed it and now I noticed it quicker. And it's like, I want to run. When I connect into a situation where it's just moving into the repetition of what's wrong with me, I want to run. I want to run from the room. I want to run screaming. But what I really want to do is help them find another spot.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to do with Mom when I was home. Let's talk about something positive and force you to think about it. For some people, unless you're forced to think differently, you can only take yourself as far as you've ever gone in your mind or as far as you've ever learned. Otherwise, you don't really know what else is possible.
Well, they help you see it, but then you're going to fix it. I think only you can fix yourself, right?
Yes. So come back to the question, how did my journey of healing this last year and a half inspire your own health?
I thought a lot about that. When you first were going through diagnosis, you're meeting with different doctors and different teams, your energy was horrible. You were in a lot of distress and it was not comfortable. What you were hearing and what you were going through was not what you were wanting and looking for.
Mm-hmm.
It was frustrating and scary enough that you were kind of starting to yield to it and say, well, I think I might have to do this or I might do this. And everybody around you was saying, take steps, take steps. Thankfully, your husband, Nick, and my son-in-law, which I love so much because he's helped save my daughter's life. And it's the way I look at it. But Nick was there supporting you through all of this. God bless him. A strong man on the rock. He of course, had his fear too. It's scary as shit. And he's not saying things. We would talk from time to time, offering support. How can I help? And, we'd encourage each other or, to keep looking. Keep looking. And I said, I'll go deep into research. And he was going into other things and he found, I believe he was the one that discovered or found this better answer for you. And you got to do it this way. And you were saying, I don't believe that at all. And I don't really like what you're saying. And I don't really like your methods and your process. I don't like any of it. And people are saying, Jamie, when are you going to start? When are you going to start doing it? Because we got to get it over with. It was so stressful. It was extremely stressful for you more than me, of course, but I was feeling it. And then through the pushing and continuing and keep looking, you found, the answer from God, the right answer, the answer you needed. And it worked out amazing.
I mean, go back to the question, did it make me feel good or did it make me feel bad? And well, these doctors are making me feel
scared.
And like these other approaches, we're not totally rejecting these guys, but we can help you as a whole person. It felt very good and well received.
Confidence, the conviction, confidence in that team. It was amazing. High performing team and a high performing doctor. And the guy was from Rochester, which made it cool for me. But you found what you were looking for. Yeah, this discomfort. It was bad. Now that we're in the healing, it's amazing. It's a miracle. You look back and you go, wow, that was all a miracle.
How did that inspire your health?
Well, my health, this is a huge thing, and your viewers are going to laugh. I stopped eating just peanut butter. Now, so
because it's full of
there's a full serving. So in my house as a kid, my older brother liked Peter Pan. I think my dad liked it too because we didn't get Jif. But when it became my house, I got Jif. And I've eaten Jif for 40 or 50 years.
I would argue that the peanut butter that you were eating when you were little had different ingredients than it does now.
I would believe that too. I believe that more chemicals in there or something. But here's the mental part, and here's the deeper message. I believed that I had to have Jif. I'm not going to be happy if I'm eating some other kind of peanut butter. And to the point where it became a bigger thing. It became, a principal thing for me. It's part of my life that's going to be Jif. And the idea of giving up Jif was like, well, I'm giving up a freedom. This is something that I earned. And then I'm thinking about eating and health, and because of all influence, and it was about the amount of fats, trans fats, and like how nasty they are for you. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna eat peanut butter every day for so long. I'm really killing myself with that stuff. My mind said, I can't. There's nothing that's gonna substitute for Jif. Okay. It's all mental. What I'm trying to say is we create these walls in our head.
Yes.
And there's a simple one. Anyways, I moved on. Crushed peanuts, a little bit of salt is all I eat. And I can't eat Jif anymore. The reality is now I've opened up my mind, came to a little healthier thing.
Yeah.
That's the funny point, but there's a point buried in there, okay, that I want to share. Look what you do to yourself, The other point was part of your own personal therapy, you talked about fasting.
Yes, that's what I thought you were going to talk about.
Immediately afraid for you because at that time you were so skinny. You didn't have any meat on you. And I'm like, oh my God, what's she going to do to herself? Is she crazy? So you're moving into this more naturopathic thing. And of course, I support that. I'm like, yeah, awesome. Let's go there. But then there's also some fear. It's like, well, are these guys the good ones or are they flakes? You have to go through that evaluation of each person that's part of your team. You kind of, okay, are they working for you or not? And I had to do it too, although I wasn't saying anything. I'm like, oh, this guy's okay. I hope this woman's okay. And they all were. They're all like, what an incredible group that you've brought and shared with everybody on your show. Each one of them uniquely wonderful people that care, people that are sharing, people that are smart and they're trying. That's the biggest thing. Just try. So that was all good. This is the last part. Look at most of the pictures of me. I'm a fat guy. So I lost 40 pounds. So what happened is Jamie said, I'm going to start this fasting. I always tell my kids to pay attention. Pay attention to what just kind of falls in front of you, the things that come across your feed. Absolutely. That magazine that falls in front of you. Pay attention because you could be receiving good stuff or information. So I watched the show. It relieved my anxiety. And it was a documentary about this intermittent fasting, which people are using for healing. And listening to these people talk, I'm going, man, that sounds pretty good. How hard could it be? But so at the same time, no, I wasn't saying that. I'm lying. I didn't say that. I thought, oh, that's cool. Let's get for somebody else. So then one day you're going to start. And I believe it was very close to Fat Tuesday in the beginning of Lent. Yeah. All of a sudden, Alexa, I'm going to fasting. And my other daughter said, I'm in, Jamie. And I looked at it and I thought, does this mean? No. Well, it didn't, but it did. To me, it did because in support of you, Alexa's going, I'm going there. I'm not going to do less than somebody else in her family. So I said, I typed in, I'm in. Yeah.
I remember the day that text circulated. I had already started fasting, but I think Alexa threw it out. I'm going to do this to support, which meant a lot because I don't think that everybody in the family was open-minded about the approach. Everyone was probably, as you said, a little hesitant. Some people verbalized it, some people didn't, but Nick put it in front of me, so he was obviously supporting. You maybe didn't express your concerns as much as some other people did. And then I think you saw the progress. But Alexa's one of those people where I sent you all the book, like the approach that I was taking, and Alexa's like, I started reading it. I've learned so much. So she was like, I'm in, let's do it. And she threw out there, which then obviously makes me feel very supported. Not that I expect anybody to do it, but it felt nice.
But the bottom line is it cost me a lot of money because none of my clothes fit. I mean, I lost so much weight. You know what? I feel balanced. I feel more balanced. I feel now that I didn't need to eat all that food. I did not need to eat 3 meals a day because I was constantly imbalanced by it. So my body tells me, you can get your feedback from your body and your mind and your spirit, but my body's saying this is a good thing. So it's just something that I think will be forever now, just more moderation in my eating.
Where does your inspiration come from? And how do you keep up with changing times, i.e. technology?
Okay, so inspiration comes from inside, in spirit, the basis of the word. So it comes from my spirit. This is that communication you have inside with yourself, okay? So my spirit poses a question or poses a thought, and then I chew on it and see where it goes. I go back to the problem, making things work better. I'm saying that instead of just saying a problem solver because it's not the same thing, really. When you're making things work better, you have to be able to see that there's something wrong. So you're trying to figure out, well, what it might be some problems with that. Anyway, the art thing is what keeps me going. There's 2 things that keep me going. My family, my wonderful family. I'm so blessed by God. 3 beautiful daughters, intelligent, independent, caring, full of light. And now another generation, which is also just making my life richer, full of fun and happiness and learning. And our family together, when we're all together, there's nothing better. Yeah. So that keeps me going. And Behold, which is my life mission related to what I've done all my life as a career. And it's just that artists need a better opportunity than they've been given for the last 500 years. So I intend to change that. And we'll talk about that some other time. But you can go to Behold world.art and learn some more for yourself.
How do you keep up with changes in technology? I thought that was a good question because I think you're better at it than I am. And not that I'm supposed to be good at it.
I think it's only because I really liked it. Computers, when I was in 9th grade, for computing, you created a punch card. This was a paper card, and you punched holes in it in certain spots, and then you'd stick it in the computer, and it would do something. Oh, how cool. So I've always thought that was the coolest thing. I want to learn about computers. And so I got into them very early. I bought them for my work, and one of the first guys with a computer in this city, and then you just keep with it. There's so much potential in that thing. So you just keep finding new ways to use it and new things to do with it. Now I get a lot of news feeds. And I kind of quickly click through things to stay up on it.
Yeah. You're good at it.
AI, it works pretty well.
I think too, I would add to that, I can kind of be a little curmudgeon. I remember when AI came out and I was like, oh, they're going to take all my information. Is it real? Is it good? There was resistance to it. I think you just kind of say, this could be really cool. And you look at it differently. This could be helpful. You're not afraid of it, I think is the point I want to make. You're not afraid of it.
Exploitation, I'll say. And that word sounds bad when you hear it. But what can you do? How can you exploit this technology? How can I solve someone else's problem? How can I solve my problem? How can I make money with it? How can I make something move faster? How can I be more efficient? Because I learned when I first came out of school, I was doing everything with my hands. There were no computers creating art. If you had put out a magazine or a calendar or whatever it was, a box, you're doing it all with your hands and you're creating materials you need to print. So I made that crossover. And I know what it took by hand, and I know how improved it was by digital, by technology.
Yeah.
And I just stayed with it. I like it. I have fun with it. Some people don't like it. They don't have fun. I have fun with it. I like the challenge. I like figuring things out, applying it.
Cool. Well, I think you already answered my question that I ask everybody, because it's the Forward Think Tank, right? And you kind of identified what keeps you moving forward in life, family.
I did kind of touch on it, but it's my family is really the driving force of the joy and moving forward in my life. It's watching them grow and change. And and go through challenges and things like that. The other part is behold, which again is, I believe, my mission as a, business person. I think I was put here to make that happen. So I'm focused on that. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited for you, and I'm excited to talk about this, maybe in a whole nother episode, and potentially we could bring Jaime on too. And I think it lends itself to healing in a way, because I think that art and music and all of that can make a significant impact in someone's healing journey. I will include information for how people can discover more about the Rosicrucians. And this was an awesome conversation.
I have a suggestion for your programming as you move forward. You might offer a chance for the people that are coming on your show to ask you a question.
Sure.
Or a question or more. I don't have one prepared. I was just thinking about it. Well, what I would say is I'm happy to come back on anytime. So I'm having fun talking with you, which is nice, and being a little bit serious, trying to convey. I'm trying to share some information I think is helpful. But I like to laugh and have fun too. But just, you never know where that might go and what people might ask you, because you're the one that's actually been through all of this. So I just throw that out there for you. Yeah, we could talk about behold, the Rose Cross Order. If you're oriented toward that, if when I talk about that, you go like, that's interesting, curious about that.
Yeah.
It's your spirit telling you, take a look. Go take a look. Don't take it from me. Take it from them. So I'll give Jamie a link.
Perfect.
And it's in multiple languages, but these folks they're some truly wonderful human beings pushing that mission forward. So I share that.
Thank you. Well, this was awesome, Dad.
It was awesome, Jane. So I call Jamie Jane.
Yes.
That's her nickname. Like I'm Jim. She's Jane.
We could probably talk for many more hours, but I think there was a lot of good nuggets of wisdom. So I appreciate your time.
I love you, Jane. And I
love you too.
That you do. And I'm so happy that you're mine.
And I'm so happy that you're mine too.
Did you enjoy this episode? If so, I would appreciate you taking a moment to please leave a 5-star review. Every review helps visibility with this episode to reach more people. And I am on a mission to help people learn alternate resources to support themselves in their healing journey on their road to health. So please take a moment to leave a review, leave a comment. I read every single one and I respond back. And of course, the most helpful thing you can do is to share this episode. If you found it helpful, if you found it entertaining, please share it on social media, send it to a friend, a loved one, someone you think could find this helpful. It means the absolute world to me. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening, and I will see you soon.